Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 129.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
Okay, sports fans, welcome one more time to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I am Jay, your host. I'm glad that you guys are here. As you can tell, we're going through many different types of entrepreneurs. We've been doing this for a while now, and I'm hoping that you're learning about many different facets of your own business as you go out there to build. You know, not everybody wants to do real estate. I get that, but everybody wants business. Everybody wants things like cash flow. And there are many different ways of attaining it, and hopefully you appreciate the variety of the individuals that come. However, regardless of what business you're in, guess what you need? You need a customer. Where are they? No customers equals no business. The question is how on earth are you going to go find them? As an investor, yeah, we need buyers and sellers and investors and all these other things. And we have marketing strategies that we develop to go make them happen. But what if you had a way to find exactly the person that you're looking for when you wanted them, and you could make that happen intentionally? I think today's guest is going to do his best to help you and I understand how to make all of those things happen on demand, dare I say, and most importantly, give you some insights to the person you need to become in order to grow your business to that level that you're currently looking for. Today's guest is Steve Daar, current author of Profit Hacking. You definitely should go find that. But one of the things that I really like is that he prefers to help, yes, businesses, but also nonprofit organizations that have a mission. And the key word to understand is to have a mission. One of the most important things that you can do for your business is not necessarily desired just to earn money. We don't just make dollars. We make a difference. And that's the kind of people you want to align yourself with. Obviously, Steve is as an expert at driving, converting, and monetizing traffic because he's managed over 1.3 million in online advertising spend, working with Fortune 500 companies. And he's been an entrepreneur since completing his undergrad degree. I have a sneaky suspicion we're about to learn a whole lot. So welcome, Mr. Steve Daar. Steve, you there?
Yes, I am.
Thank you for taking the time to invest here. I definitely appreciate it when anyone who knows anything about anything decides to give to our audience. One of the questions that I often start with is I look at today, and I look across the landscape of entrepreneurs and I think, man, we're going around, we're saving people, changing lives. And today's entrepreneurs are very much like yesterday's superheroes, the Batman, the Spider-Man, the whatever, they went around and saved lives. And occasionally they, dressed up a bit to go and do that. Yet every superhero has an origin story. They started some way, maybe it's their planet exploded or their parents died or whatever. Something happened and they then became the superhero we know today. So my question to you, Steve, is very simple. Before you were the author, before you were out there saving lives using the tactics and strategies that you know, who was Steve Daar?
I love that question. And actually, a friend of mine, he runs something called Archangel Academy, and it's for entrepreneurs who have that big heart, who have their mission, and it's like really superhero themed. And so I really dig the connection. So who I was before I got into all this, I was a finance major. I graduated undergrad with a finance degree, and I was hired to be a financial advisor, specifically for K through 12 school teachers. And I thought I was going to have that job for decades. I thought that was going to be my career. And I noticed really quickly that the company that hired me, they're one of the largest companies in the world, this massive, massive insurance company. Basically, they were hiring people like me in this position to not really be a financial advisor, to not really be a true fiduciary, but to kind of be a glorified insurance salesman and selling these plans that I thought were not that great for the teacher. There was a lot of really expensive hidden fees. There were all these benefits that they taught you to sell, but the odds of them ever coming into play were almost zero. And I was like, and I actually did the math, and I realized that about $3 billion each and every year was being taken from teachers' retirement accounts and put basically to the bottom line profits of massive insurance companies. So that was kind of my origin story. That was like the point where I was just so outraged and incensed. And I was like, I need to do something to help give teachers access to better financial information. So I left that job, started my first business at 22 to do exactly that. And it was an epic, massive failure.
Nice.
And yeah, it was impressive, to be honest. So I was a finance guy, right? And I knew nothing about sales and marketing. And it became abundantly clear early that if I was going to be successful with helping teachers or with any business I was ever going to start, I needed to master sales and marketing. And so that put me on a path that I've been on for over 4 or 5 years now, where I don't think I've gone more than a day without opening up a book, getting on the phone with someone who's an expert and just trying to pick their brain, going through paid courses, going to seminars, whatever I could do to increase my library of knowledge and then apply it and test it and get better over time, has brought me to where I am today.
Yeah. And you know, what's interesting about what you say is that no matter what specialized knowledge we may have, and of course, there's lots of specialized knowledge out there. Even if you say, ooh, I want to be a doctor. Great. You have a choice. You can either go work like with the big hospitals who have already figured out their sales and marketing, or you've got to start your own private practice. And guess what? You're going to eventually end up in a situation where you're like, I need more clients. I need more patients. I need more something. And then you're hit with this roadblock. I think every entrepreneur runs into that. So here's a good question then. When you were faced with that question the first time and you realized, hey, I got to sell stuff and find people to sell stuff to, what was the first thing you did?
So the first thing I did is I went out and I talked to people who were successful financial advisors who had their own business or had their own RIA, like registered independent advisory firm, and also specifically people around the country who catered specifically to teachers and as financial advisors. And I asked them, how did you get started? Where did you learn how to be able to market and sell? And some people recommended certain marketing experts, and I started learning their stuff. And the biggest one early for me was Dan Kennedy, and I started learning a lot about copywriting and direct response marketing, both offline with direct mail and then online with, basically the majority of forms of advertising online can basically be qualified as direct response. And that's kind of where it started for me.
Yeah. And my point there is you didn't just necessarily go and say, okay, I'll figure it out on my own. You were trying to leverage the experience of other individuals, which again is I would say a pattern for many of the entrepreneurs that we've definitely have talked to. Now, when you mentioned Dan Kennedy, I know for myself, although interestingly, it's a relatively new name to me. So tell everybody, because it probably could be a new name to everyone else as well, but you hear it a lot, and there could be a number of individuals, who are wondering, well, who is Dan Kennedy and why is that important?
So Dan Kennedy is mostly a copywriter, but also marketing strategist. And in my opinion, he is brilliant, but he's also very, very good at extracting money from people like customers. And so he's got this really interesting model of giving a lot of information away for free or for low cost in books. And then he gets you into his world where you're paying like monthly membership fees and like all these things and seminars. So my main recommendation is for people, if you really want to get into it, like if you read his books, especially if you're a reader, just buy his books and you get 90%, 80% of what he teaches without having to get into like the really expensive stuff. And it's something that you mentioned about picking the brains of other people. And that's kind of the theme that you see of entrepreneurs for me. And it might not be true of everyone. I feel like books are the highest ROI thing that you can learn from. People will pack hundreds or thousands of dollars worth of information that they would teach in coaching or in seminars and sell it for $20, $30. And you're getting someone's, like, for example, with profit hacking, it's the combined knowledge of over 4 or 5 years of me spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, spending thousands of hours, accumulating all this marketing knowledge. And then I took the time to distill it and refine it and make it as accessible and easy to understand as possible. And in an hour or two of reading, you're picking up the most important things I've learned over the last 5 years of my life. Like, you can't really get too much higher ROI of your time than that.
No, I am in 100% agreement is that it's the least expensive way to get all of that experience in a short period of time. And you know, for me, the same thing happened with the book and that's why it's an audio. That's also why it's an ebook. That's why it's on iTunes and Audible, everywhere. You have no excuse for not being able to get it. And it's all there. So let's talk about, this idea of profit hacking. I like the concept, by the way. Great title. So those things are definitely true, because one of the things that you mention is that there's a way to quote unquote double profits using tiny tweaks that take minutes to implement. Now, I am not the most tech savvy person on the planet, but I'm not foreign to computers either. However, learning this online marketing paid media thing and getting introduced to all of the acronyms between CPA and CTR and CPC, I'm just like, can someone just help me with all of this? What exactly would you say is those abilities to find those individuals? How does one even get started with what you do and what you're talking about here?
Sure. And so, of course, there's the alphabet soup of the internet where there's all the like SEO and CPC, PPC, there's a million of them. And so it's so easy to get lost in the woods, right? With online business or even offline business. But if you really want to make everything simple, you want to zoom out and look at it from the 10,000 foot view, there's really only 3 things that you can do to increase your profits. You can increase your traffic, whether that's visitors to a website or people that come into your leasing office or inbound calls from customers. You can increase your conversion, the percentage of those visitors, that traffic that buys or subscribes or signs up or whatever it is that your goal is for them to do. And then lastly, you can increase your economics, which is the amount you earn per customer, whether it's getting people to spend more for your product or service, or you get them to get them on some sort of recurring subscription or membership thing. So they're paying you month after month, or after your original engagement, they buy more stuff. And so whatever it is that you make a customer more valuable. Those are the 3 things that you can work within to grow your business. And what a lot of people do, especially online, is they focus an inordinate percentage of their time and efforts and investment into the traffic side of that equation. And the argument here is that is actually the least efficient, the lowest leverage way to grow your business. Because there's a lot of leverage in small numbers. So let's say you get 20,000 visitors a month to your website and you convert 2% of them into customers. Which way seems like the faster way to double your business? Going from 20,000 to 40,000 every month, or converting 2% to 4%?
Right. Okay, keep going. I'm learning. I mean, this is real that's actually a real issue. What's interesting is we would love to be at 20,000 people coming to the website, but we're definitely working through those pains. But we have a pretty high conversion for those that do actually get there. So I'm just learning through this process of where that leverage point possibly is. So okay, I'm listening now. Once you, I guess, as you go through that process, then what you're really saying is that traffic isn't the issue?
So a lot of times you don't have a traffic problem. You have a conversion and or an economics problem. So let's say that you can buy either through Facebook advertising or Google advertising a click for $1. And if so, 100 clicks is $100 to you in this scenario.
Right.
And depending on the percentage of people that end up buying and how much they spend, your revenue per visitor is either higher than or lower than $1. And if it's higher than $1, then you want to make that trade over and over and over. So everyone who comes to your site, maybe you earn $1.50 and you're spending $1. So it just makes sense to make that trade as many times as you can each day. But if you're under $1, if you're under $1 in revenue per visitor, then you're losing money with every click that you buy. And so the only way to make your traffic more valuable is by either getting more of your visitors to convert or earning more per. Getting more traffic is never really going to increase your revenue per visitor. And so it's kind of like once you get the conversion and the economics in your favor, then you can just pour as much traffic into the engine as possible, and you can get it from all over the web. And if you're better than your competitors at converting people, like if you can show through your website, whether with the most engaging copy, the most interesting testimonials and case studies, or whatever it is that your visitors need to see and read and feel to know that you're the right solution for their problem. So if you can outconvert and then you can keep those customers longer, get them to spend more, then it's almost impossible for anyone else to compete with you, because you can, since every customer is worth that much more, or every visitor is worth that much more to you than they would be to anyone else, or to, your website. If it was not as strong at conversion or economics, then, you can hire the best SEO team, you can hire a social media team, content marketers. And that's kind of what you're talking about, is you're getting deep into this online marketing thing. And it's hard. It's really hard to learn how to do all these things. Like it's almost impossible to be an expert in all of them. But if you really understand your customer and you know them well, and you're able to show them what they need on your site, and you get those early things going in your favor, then you can hire people. You can go out and hire people who are expert in their various niche. So you don't need to be the guy learning everything. And that's really what you don't want to be as the entrepreneur and the business owner anyway. You want to be the CEO and you want to be the manager rather than the technician doing all the things. And conversion economics is really where that all starts.
Interesting. And the funny thing is if people could see me right now, they would see me filling up my notebook I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, that makes sense, because I know some of our conversion statistics, on some of our things. And I'm like, okay, I see what he's saying. So we have one particular sequence that, takes, at least on cold traffic, it's about 1.8%. Of the people who enter convert, whereas on organic traffic, it's closer to 8 point something. It's just completely different. And what you're saying is, all right, instead of necessarily going out there to go take the traffic from, say, and I'm just making up numbers right now, 10,000 people a day or whatever, instead of focusing on that, what you're saying is figure out how to take that 1.8 and turn it into 3.6 or 4 or 5. And you don't necessarily have to figure out the traffic thing. But even if you do figure out the traffic thing, what you're really saying is you can do both of those to gain even more leverage. Am I close?
Yeah, definitely. And so you have to think about in this exact example, the organic traffic. And sorry if you can hear a siren. I live in the south side of Chicago, which is the crime capital of the United States. So
that's not
it's not an uncommon sound. And so, So in your specific example, when you have the high conversion with organic traffic and the low conversion with cold traffic, so what is probably happening there is people really tend to trust the results they see in the search engines, especially if you're number one or number two. Google kind of has that halo effect where people see, okay, this is the top result, so Google trusts them, so then I can trust them.
I see.
And so that might make it really appealing for them to say, okay, these guys are the solution I'm looking for. But for cold traffic, they might not have that same level of trust right away. They're a little more skeptical. They're more back on their heels. And so you might need to separate. If you're showing them the exact same page, you might need to create a separate page just for cold traffic that has more testimonials or more guarantees or more proof. Or instead of like asking them for something right away, you give them something right away and prove that your content or your solution is what they're looking for. And then after you sufficiently prove that, then you make your ask and you might see higher conversion rates.
Are you tired of letting good cash flow generating ideas go to waste? Go to cashflowdiary.com/ready to apply for a complimentary, yes, that means free, one-on-one breakthrough session. Take action now. Go to cashflowdiary.com/ready. Again, that's cashflowdiary.com/ready. Before we get back to today's episode of the Cashflow Diary podcast, your host Jay Massey has some important insights to share with you.
Okay, entrepreneurs, I hope you're listening, because the skill sets that we've been going through and understanding how to attract individuals to you online as well as offline is absolutely necessary if you are going to grow your investors, your buyers, your database in any way, shape, or form. And I hope you're learning as much as I am learning as I listen to individuals like Steve who have the ability to help you and I go out there and reach and touch and affect more people. These skill sets are absolutely necessary. They're not optional. And I want to make sure that I underscore that. You know, it's like saying, hey, Jay, I'd love to be able to, grow up one day, but I don't want to learn to walk. Well, understand the skill sets that we're talking about today, because of the way businesses are changing, because of the reach you can have for your business to build your cash flow. What we are talking about is absolutely necessary for every entrepreneur. I'm not going to keep you from it any longer. Let's get back to it. Interesting. I love that, because that's actually the slant we had been taking for that very thing. So that makes me feel good. It's like, hey, I got good advice on that one. Now, the interesting thing that when you say profit hacking, is it things like this that you're referring to? What exactly? Because you talk about a profit hacking formula. I'm just like, all right, what is that? What does that mean?
Sure. So the formula is traffic times, and then in parentheses, conversion times economics. So the three things that we talked about, and it all equals revenue. And so those are the three things that we talked about. And basically, your conversion times your economics is equal to your revenue per visitor. And then you multiply your revenue per visitor by how many visitors you have. And that's your revenue. And so the formula is, okay, these are these three things that we can work within, and which ones have the leverage, which, as we previously went over, are conversion and economics.
Got it. So that I can translate this to something that I might actually already understand. I'm just, it is what it is. When you say things like revenue per visitor, would that be the same as customer lifetime value, or is that a different number?
So, yeah, I mean, it would basically be, yeah, I mean, I would say that's an apt comparison, definitely.
Got it. Okay. Awesome. Great. All right. Because I'm trying to get a handle on these things so that I can go out there and use this and reach more people. That's what I think every entrepreneur does. Now, how did you manage? Because something else that I found interesting is how did you manage to get to? Because $1.3 million in online advertising spend. First of all, that sounds like like how? And and then second, working with Fortune 500 companies. It's like, really? Interesting. Those two things, the idea of, Ford trying to do direct response marketing seems interesting to me simply because I don't buy a car that frequently.
Totally. So they're actually tied together. So after my teacher's original venture in entrepreneurship with the teacher's finance stuff, by the time that I kind of started to really figure stuff out and I could be effective and a dangerous marketer, so to speak, I had spent myself broke and beyond broke, and to the point where I was in debt. So I took some time off of my entrepreneurial path and got a job at a marketing agency, and their clients were Fortune 500 level companies or very large companies that were just below that size. And I was managing their marketing campaigns. I took all the knowledge that I had learned over the past couple of years working to make my business float, and ultimately flopped, and applied that for these companies. And it was really, really valuable because when you have huge budgets like 50,000, 100,000 plus a month for an individual company, you get to run so many tests, you get to see so much data come in, you learn at an accelerated rate. And so I took that time at that company to get a ton of hands-on experience, as well as continuing to read about a book a week and continue to grow my knowledge outside of it. And then when I pulled myself out of debt and I had done enough work for these companies, I felt ready to take a second stint with entrepreneurship. And I left my job about a year ago. And it's been going a lot better the second time around.
Awesome. That's good to hear. And oftentimes, because I've said this before with people, I was like, look, you do your first deals for experience, not profit. And then later you get the profit from your experience. And it sounds like you're doing that very thing. I have a question though. When you're working with those large companies, all right, 50,000 a month, great. Very, very, as in none of the small business entrepreneurs that I'm aware of are anywhere near to being comfortable spending a number like that on an annual basis, let alone on a monthly basis. So how does someone who's thinking about their idea or has their business going a little bit and wants to be able to reach more people, how dare they even venture in? Because if we can't compete with $50,000 a month, does it even make any sense for us?
Yeah, and so that's the question that I've heard a couple of times. And so it's totally true that they're playing a different game, but they also, I feel like the advantage for the smaller people is agility. And when I was working for these clients, it was my number one frustration point is that I had all these ideas for how to improve their marketing campaigns, and it took 7 meetings on their end to even consider the committee for approval. And so the sloth and the bureaucracy that they have, it really puts them at a disadvantage to an agile marketer. And so what I really recommend for small business owners, especially people who are starting out, is to just get out there and test. And so it's so easy to get stuck in the middle and think about like, oh, could I do this? Or like, is this going to work? And it's easy to use a lot of your time and your energy without investing your money, and just to get proof of concept and see if something works. And so even if you have a really small budget, to put towards some paid traffic and get some numbers in and see, okay, am I close? Are people responding to this? Or am I really far off? And that information is worth its weight in gold, because then you can either realize, okay, I need to pivot or tweak, or maybe even get into a completely different line of something to get my cash flow, or I'm on to something. Right. And you can pursue that further. And the second thing I recommend is you need to get out of the building and you need to talk to people, like really get clear on who your customer is or who your market is, who you want to serve, and talk to them. Whether it's you call them up, you meet them in person, or you find some ways to survey them online, and get in their own words. What are their pain points? What are their hopes and dreams and goals? What are their frustrations? What are they currently using to solve the problem you want to solve? And where does it fall short? And when you get that information in their language, that'll make your ability to adequately deliver a solution that they want and be able to sell it through your copy or through conversation infinitely more effective.
Interesting. Now, you speak to this process of getting some numbers and some data. How much is some numbers? Because when you say a small budget, and we were just talking about $50,000 a month, someone could have interpreted that and said, well, how much is small? Because small could still be too big. Where does one choose to start, or what is there any sort of methodology for these types of things? Because this, again, the frame of reference is going from 0, not coming down from 50,000.
Right. So small would be like 48,000 a month.
There you go. That's exactly what I was trying to prevent right there. That's awesome though.
No. So no, I mean, I would say even if you have $100, $200, and you can just get in some traffic to your site. And if you have traffic coming in from other ways, like that's great. And you can continue running those strategies. But the reason why I normally, for people just starting out, recommend paid traffic over trying to do SEO or content marketing or like, I'm going to make that one thing go viral. Like those are, it's hard. It takes a long time to really rise up in the search rankings or to build a social following or those things. It takes a lot of investment of time and energy. And I feel like I have a very limited, scarce amount of time. And there is an abundance of money. Like, I know that's not always true for, like, I know in my life for a long time, I had a scarcity mindset around money, but like you will earn more money in your lifetime, but the time after today is gone, you'll never have this day, these 24 hours back ever again. And so when you think about it that way, it makes a lot more sense to invest a little bit of money to get that early feedback, and then take what you learn, whether it's a lot or a little, it's a starting point. So, $100 is better than $50, $50 is better than $0, but you don't need to have some massive budget to at least get a start and a sense of whether you're on the right path or not.
Nice. Got it. Totally understood. All right, everyone. Just understand, as I'm going through these things, this is the information that I'm getting back too. It's like it's work. You got to get that information. The good news is that because of today's technology, you don't have to have billions or millions or even thousands to get started. You can go out there and start with something as small as he said, $100. Now, I got to know, Steve, there's so many places we could go start. Is there any one place that you would recommend over another? I mean, you've got Bing and Yahoo and Google and Facebook and pick.
So the two I would recommend, and it's your choice between these two depending on your business. And so if you think that your solution, it's more likely people are going to be searching for a specific solution. So we'll just say, for example, you had some treatment that cured acne as an example. Then you're not going to be targeting like groups of people. You're going to be targeting people who are specifically searching into a search engine how to clear up acne, how to get rid of pimples, and you want to serve your ad directly to them. If that's what your business is along the lines of, then I recommend starting with Google. But if your business is more along the lines of like reaching out to a certain demographic of people or maybe a psychographic of people, so things that people like for example, if you are a wedding DJ, it might be good for you to target in Facebook people who recently changed their relationship status to engaged, because then you know that you are targeting only people who are in the market for wedding services. And they might not necessarily be searching in Google for your service. They probably are at some point, but I think that's a good example of how to target people. And with Facebook, everyone willingly gives all their information to Facebook. So they know what books you like, what TV shows you like. So I've seen a lot of people do things where they'll create T-shirts for a popular TV show or celebrity, and then they'll target people who are fans of that show and say, hey, we've got this T-shirt that's exactly for this thing that you've told Facebook you like. And they make a decent amount of profit off of it.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess the question then becomes is, when you're trying to do those things, it feels like it could be a really big black hole of money. How do you know which one to start with, or more importantly, how big to go? Because they always tell you gotta have a good reach and you gotta go talk to a lot of people. Well, there's, I don't know, billions online, and I can't reach all of them with $100. I've got to choose. Is there any sort of methodology for figuring that out?
So especially with Facebook, my recommendation is to keep your budgets pretty low, so you can't spend more. So you wouldn't spend more than, say, $5 or $10 a day, or however much you set your budget at, so that you've got caps in place. So it's not like you're going to be spending, unknowingly spending $1,000 in a day. And then I would also generally recommend when you're starting out, bid high. But what I would do is, if like you're really early, think of what could be an irresistible offer to this person that's clicking. And if you can just get them to take action, and then you have them in your email system, or you can get them to call you, or you can figure out a way to get in contact with them. And then you can start asking them those questions that we talked about earlier that really gets you into the mindset of your customer. Then that is information worth untold amounts of money. And so, or, if you just want to go with your standard offer, the key is just knowing your numbers. So keeping your eye on the dashboards within the tool and letting you know, okay, this is how many clicks I got, this is how much it costs for a click, and this is how many sales I made or how many leads I generated. And having just a basic idea of how much a lead is worth to you or how much a sale is worth to you. So you can be like, okay, so here's my cost per click and here's my revenue per click. And how far off am I? Am I close to creating, because it's like the dream to have a site that cranks out a higher revenue per click than cost per click. Then you've basically got the golden ticket to just make that trade over and over, and it's profitable every time. So, a lot of times, even if you go back to before the internet and there was all the direct response copywriters, a lot of times the first time they would mail something like to a mailing list, they wouldn't be profitable, but they would look and say, okay, where are we off? So maybe a certain type of person responds better, so we need to target them more heavily, or the conversion rate is just a little bit off, or if we made $2 more per sale, then we would be profitable. And so those are, it goes back to what I was talking about. That's traffic, that's conversion, and that's economics. They're timeless. It doesn't matter if you're offline, online, what year in business you're in. Those are the things that you have, the levers you have to pull to grow your business. And when you're able to kind of play with all three of them, and especially when you're working with the high leverage ones like conversion and economics, like you'll be able to learn, like, okay, am I in the ballpark and can I make this work, or do I need to go back to the drawing board?
Right. Now, I just want to make sure, though, I heard you correctly. You said set your budgets at $5 and $10. That's very small. That's very, very doable.
Yeah, and with Facebook or with Google AdWords, you could do that per day, and so it's definitely doable. I mean, depending on what you're targeting, you might only get a couple clicks a day, but I mean, it's a start. If that's where you're at, that's fine. It's just like the thing is, I want people, and it's whether in business or life, changing a habit, it's all the same, right? Like, you need to just get started, and you need to learn, and you need to get out there and do it. Otherwise, you'll waste weeks, months, maybe even years of your life in the dark and wondering about what if. And maybe someone is different, but I think that living with what ifs and regrets are like the last thing that you want to have when you're on your deathbed.
Huh. Don't want to wait that long, but yeah, sure. Don't want any of those if we can avoid them in any way, shape, or form. So your specialty then is being able to understand a particular company's customer and helping them find that customer. Is that am I accurate? Am I close?
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge part. So my main area of specialty is conversion. So getting what makes people click, what makes people subscribe, what makes people buy. And a huge part of that is understanding who they are, getting inside their head and understanding their problems and their needs and where they are and where they want to be and what they think is stopping them from getting from point A to point B. And then basically delivering your message, your product, your service as the mechanism that will get them from A to B. And if you can do that, you're going to get buyers.
Nice. Excellent. So if someone wanted to find out a little bit more about who you are, what you're doing, and what you're up to, what would be the best way for us to get a copy of the book and find out what you've got going on?
So for a copy of the book, profithacking.com is a great place. Just for about me personally, I think I'm the only Steve Daar out there. So if you Google Steve Daar, I dominate page 1 of Google.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, those are the two best ways to learn a little bit more about me and about the book.
Excellent. You probably want to spell the name just in case.
Yep. Steve with a V and Daar, Daar.
Exactly. Excellent. Well, I definitely appreciate you taking the time to invest with us here at the Cashflow Diary. What do you have to say to that person who's right now thinking to themselves, should I, shouldn't I, will this media thing really work for me?
So, I mean, I think that this is going to be a broader answer than maybe what you're looking for, but it all starts with you and it all starts internally with your mindset. And so, like, if I could give any advice, it's learn maybe something about a stoic mindset or get some things going that just teach you how to always move forward. Don't let yourself get too down if you spend some money on media and it doesn't work, and don't let yourself get too up or too overconfident if it works out well the first time, because there's always a way to improve. There's always more to learn, and if you just constantly improve, you focus on incremental gains each day, you'll be surprised at how fast you'll improve, how fast you'll get to profitability and get to those places where you want to go.
Excellent. Well, sir, thank you very much for investing your time here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It is time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? That means profithacking.com is probably the destination you are headed to, especially if you're wondering, all right, how can I find more investors? How can I possibly get more sellers? What could I do to attract the individuals that have the assets that I want to purchase and go out there and make things happen? Or maybe, your business is different. Maybe you're looking, your customers are, you call them clients, or maybe you're looking for more patients to work on. Whatever it is, you got to build your cash flow. And part of that process is finding the person and helping them understand why your product or service is what they're looking for. And I'm guessing that something you heard today has helped you make that happen. It's been fun talking to you guys again. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.